Bibles in Matthew chapter 7 and verse number 21. If you'd like to turn there and read with us for a little bit. I thought about using this for our text. We have 3 other places we're going to be going to, but I want to use this today to start, I guess, for a starter. They have, I noticed in the cafes, they have what they call starters. Just kind of get folks and then have something to give them an appetite. And, to get something else to eat, I guess, and buy more. But anyhow, I'm going to use this for our starter. Matthew chapter 7 and verse number 21. He said, "Not everyone that said unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And thy name have cast out devils, and thy name have done many wonderful works. And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work of iniquity." Now, Jesus had carried the disciples up on a mountain, and he was teaching them. This is some of his teaching. He said, "Not everyone that said unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven." Sometimes some people holler Lord when they don't even know him. If something terrible happens to them, they holler, "Oh Lord." I remember years ago when I mentioned this and get on in the message. I was just a young feller, and we was down at the cattle sale, and my dad liked to go down there. And we went to town, up there a little bit at Albertsville, and we get some plants, and we forgot some of them. I don't know where it was, Mayer plants or what it was, something that went in the garden, and we'd started back down to the cattle sale, and we forgot it. And we turned around and went back. But while we was gone, there was a bad wreck down on Baltimore Avenue. Everybody's been to Albertville, you know where that's at. Going south toward Boaz from Albertville. And this man was there, and boy, he hit a tree or two in a nice looking car. He was laying in the road, and his head was all skin up, and he was hollering, "Oh Lord." I mean, he was hollering out for the Lord. I don't know where he knew the Lord, or where it was just out of him being hurt that he was doing that. But I want to preach today and use our title of our message, 3 men was religious, but they was lost. Now, 2 of them, as far as I know, got saved in the Bible, but many people in the Bible wasn't Christians. They weren't believers. And that's why Jesus said that disciples, "Not everyone that said to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven." And but the Bible tells us, and I want us to look at Balaam for a little while. Most everybody knows about Balaam, that somebody said that the donkey talked to Balaam. I thought about, it wasn't so bad for the donkey to talk to him, but when the prophet talked back to the donkey, well, that's when it got serious. And there he was, probably sitting on him, and he was talking to him, and he started talking back to him. Now, if me and you today, if that donkey started talking to us, we probably wouldn't stay around and talk to him. We'd probably leave out. Or any kind of animal. But the Bible said that the Lord permitted this to happen because that Balaam had been mean to this animal. He'd been carried him. And he saved his life. Really, this animal saved his life because he saw more than the prophet did. Think about an animal that is supposed to be a dumb animal, that it could see more than a man is supposed to claim to be a man of God or a man of righteousness. And the Bible said that Balaam, he was out for me. What can I get out of it? A lot of people is like that today. They're wondering what is in for them. What will they get out of it? And that's what Balaam was. The Bible said that he loved the wages of unrighteousness. And that's what he went for. But when you talk about Balaam, the Bible said in Jude, and I believe it's 2 Peter, and then Revelations, it talks about Balaam, but one of them is the error of Balaam, the other one's the way of Balaam, then the other one's the doctrine of Balaam. And all of it's different. When you look at that for a little while, then I want you to look at for just a little while that this man was in it for what he could get out of it. The man had sent for him and offered him good gifts and things to come over there and put a curse upon God's chosen people. And I don't understand it about this man, but the Bible said that he could talk to God and God could talk to him. And but the Bible teaches us that he wasn't what he ought to be. It condemns these churches in Revelation for having the doctrine of Balaam in them. And then the Bible said then the way of Balaam and the arrow of Balaam. In other words, it was all bad stuff. And that Balaam, nothing good there was. And the Bible said that this man, he wished he could die like a righteous man. And my friend, he wanted to die like a righteous man. I think about people today that, my friend, they like to die when it come down, their fingernails start turning blue, and their eyes start sitting in the head, and they like to die like a righteous man. But while they're well and feeling good, they want to live up to the world. They want to have a hoorah good time and enjoy the pleasure of sin. And my friend, but they want to die. This man wanted to die like a righteous man. And the Bible said that one day, this man was in the wrong place in the right time. And God took him out. The Bible said he perished. Israel had destroyed this place, and he just happened to be there. And got caught up in the line of fire, I guess you'd say. And Balaam got killed there. But my friend, think about how religious but lost. How many people today reckon sitting in our churches today have been carried a Bible and walked in somebody's church, my friend, and they're religious, but they're lost without God today. We don't want to think about it. We think everybody who goes to church is a Christian. My friend, I want you to know whether you agree with us or not, the greatest opportunity of any preacher is to win the lost is in his congregation. If you get his congregation saved, he'll do a great work. You think about it. First time I ever preached that is in 1967. Had a lot larger church than I have now. I started preaching on that, and Mama, she's about ready to crawl on the bank. She said they'll run him off for sure, and finally did. Amen. I know a preacher told me this past week, and I was in service with him, and he had a huge church not far from here. And he took that old King James Bible and took his finger and tapped it. He said, that's the reason I'm not there. Said they didn't want me to preach out of this old King James Bible, and I'm not there. And my friend, and I didn't have no reason to think that this man wasn't telling me right, because I knew him for a long time. And I knew where he was talking about. But he said they didn't want me to use the old King James Bible. I don't blame me. I'd have got my hat left too. My friend, because when anybody throws the Word of God out, I'm talking about the real Word of God. I'm not talking about a generic something, friend, today, but I'm talking about the pure Word of God. The Bible said it was undefiled. My friend, it don't have any contradictions in it. I know that man trying to say the Bible contradicts itself. But what it is the person that's reading it is the one that makes it do it. It's not the Bible itself, but Balaam. My friend, he wanted the best of life. My friend, to enjoy himself, and he wanted to die right, but he didn't want to live right. And the Bible said that he loved the wages. And if I look at it right, the wages of unrighteousness wouldn't be righteousness, would it? Be right the object to me. And the Bible said he perished. So I'm preaching about 3 men that had religion, and then they was lost. The Bible said that, I'm going to get to Saul ahead of Nicodemus. But I want you to think about Saul. The Bible said that he was a well-educated man. Man, he had been to the best school teacher there was. Said on the best teacher that there was there. And the Bible said he was a Pharisee. He had the best religion. Then he was a Jew. Everything looked like was going for him good. But he was just as lost as he could be. He was religious, but he was lost. He was going about, my friend, trying to destroy the believers, and he was lost without God. But one day the Lord spoke to him. One day he was on the road to Damascus, The Bible said he was going down through there, and he had to, listen, he had legal papers. If he found anybody down there worshiping God in the way of Jesus Christ, not Judaism, now he wouldn't care if they'd been Judaism, but he wanted somebody that claimed to be Christian. He had authority to bring them back to Jerusalem bound. And the Bible said, my friend, that this man had seen a lot of people punished because they were a Christian. He was lost without God. But on that way down there, the Bible said there was a light that outshined the noonday sun. And you know what he said? He said, Lord, I thought we was rid of you when you was crucified and buried. Now they got rid of him. Saul, no doubt, was a student over in Jerusalem. No doubt he saw Jesus crucified. But you know what he said, Lord? He said, Lord, what will you have me to do? He knew there's somebody talking to him besides some of them rabbi brothers. He was talking to, there was a higher power dealing with him. And the Lord told him to go into Damascus. And the Bible said when he got up, he couldn't see nothing. God had to blind him. My friend, he really made a believer out of this fella. Oh, today I thought about my friend, some things that happened, and I heard about it, my friend. But God, my friend, made a believer out of him. And about 3 days he's blind and couldn't see. God spoke to a man over there in Damascus and said, I want you to go over there and lay your hands on old Saul. Lord, well, I'm afraid of this man. He done many bad things against the believers, and here he's come with a paper to arrest people and the authority in his hand. And the Lord said, he's all right. He's praying. I will tell you something, folks. If a person's a praying, you won't have to be afraid of them. But if they're not a praying person, you might ought to keep one eye on them. You better watch them. They might be ready to hug you with one hand and stab you with the other one. But if they're praying and they're talking to God, you don't have to worry about it. He said, you have no fear about this. Go over and lay your hands on him. You go over and pray for him. He said, Brother Saul, he said, the Lord sent me over here to pray for you, that you might receive your sight. You think about it. He had him to come over there and pray for him. And he addressed him as brother. So somebody said that Saul didn't get saved till over in Damascus. But you know when Saul gave his personal testimony, he didn't say, I want to tell you folks what happened to me over in Damascus. But he'd always tell them, he said, I was on the road to Damascus. I was traveling down through there, and I had an experience. This man had a real, genuine experience that it changed him completely. He was a Jew. He was a Judaism. He had religion to his fingernails. But he didn't have God in his life. A lot of people have got religion today, and that's all they've got. D.L. Moody said one time that a lot of folks just have enough religion to make them miserable. You can have religion and miss heaven. Religion's dangerous today. A lot of people don't think about it. It's dangerous. But long-time salvation, that's different. You look at it. We have a lot of different religions in the world today. But you know, Christianity is the only one that has a true and living God. Amen. They said, preacher, you'll get in trouble for that one day. I might have to. Hey, I might really get in bad trouble someday, but I have to tell the truth. It's the only one that has a true living God. You know, I mentioned this a few times in my message. You know, they claim they found a family that was buried over there somewhere in Israel. And they said that was the family of Jesus. They found the graves. They thought Jesus was a family man. They even told that him and Mary Magdalene had children together. He married Mary Magdalene. That was the woman that he cast 7 devils out of her and made a saint of God out of her. And she loved Jesus. She's the first one, as far as I know, she's the first one at the tomb on the resurrection day of the Lord. And you think about it. But you know what? They didn't find that. And I'm going to tell you this very, very briefly and humble as I could. If they had found one fingernail of Jesus over there, our religion, what we've got today wouldn't be worth carrying home with you. One fingernail. He rose bodily. Somebody said, preacher, you're crazy. I believe he got up bodily out of the tomb. I believe when they saw him, I don't believe he had a toenail missing or a fingernail missing, but I believe he rose bodily. You think about that day. And if they'd have found just one part of Jesus, our religion would be no count today. Christianity wouldn't be worth 15 cents. They didn't find it. He rose. He went back to heaven. I don't know if you ever talked to them folks. I got to talk to one of them guys. Wears that little hat on one back of his head up here at Mount Vernon. He worked in there. And boy, he told me stuff that I never heard in my life. And I let him rip his mouth there for, I don't know how long he talked, probably 10 minutes. Boy, he thought he was scoring. And I said, where's your prophet at today? Oh, he's over there buried. And I said, Jesus ain't in the tomb. He said, I know you was going to say that. You know why he knowed it? He knowed that he wasn't in the tomb. He didn't believe in him, but he knowed he wasn't in the tomb. But I'm telling you, I'm just going to have to hurry. But think about it very briefly. Saul found the Lord, made a wonderful saint of God, won a lot of people to God, helped a lot of people, and still is. Brother Bob's been teaching some of his writing that he wrote to the Corinthian people, and he's still helping people today. Now, hurry very briefly. The Bible tells us now that's 2 of them. I've got 2 down and 1 to go, and you just pray real hard, and I'll get it wrapped up in a few minutes. The Bible said that Jesus was here. He come. Now he was a 3rd person. He was a 2nd person in the Godhead. He had come here to make God manifest to man. See, God couldn't come in the presence of man. They couldn't afford. They wouldn't be able to stand to see him. But Jesus come here as a servant and a body, and God was living in him. And there's a man there was religious to his fingertips. Man, he had it up his throat. He was a ruler in Jerusalem. He was a master of Israel, but he didn't know God. I think about some of these preachers that go down to the seminaries, and they say, one of them said, them old professors said they didn't know God. They could tell the way they talked. One young man got up in one of them cemeteries one time down there. I want to say cemetery. I said, one of them places where they was teaching them young preachers. He said, you can graduate from this place and never own a Bible. And I was probably right. He probably told the truth. The old professor never got on to him. He knew it was the truth. And J. Vernon McGee said he went, but he learned the Bible after he got out of school. They wasn't teaching him right. So he started digging for himself and found the truth about it. But Nicodemus come over there and he said to the Lord, he said, Master, we know that you come from God. He said, you couldn't do what you're doing except God be with you. And Jesus, here he was religious. It looked like it, and he ought to have been the president of everything. But Jesus looked at him and he said, you must be born again. Lost, religious, but lost and needed God. And Jesus told him, and he said, how in the world, when a man's old, can he enter the 2nd time in his mother's womb and be born? Jesus wasn't talking about that. He was talking about being born from above. I know these modernists and people today that don't believe in the power of God and all that. I know they'll tell you a lot of stuff. But listen, Jesus told this man something that he could carry to the bank. He said, you must be born again. If you're not born again, he said, you'll never see the kingdom of God. You can be religious in this life and die lost without God and carry a bunch of your kinfolks to hell with you. But if you'll come to God, you can carry them to heaven with you. You think about it. And a lot of people is religious today. I never will forget it very briefly about this man. I'm not naming no names. He is a religious man. And he had this old renter. I can just see him sitting. Every time I think about it, I can just see that old boy. Probably had his overalls on. He was one of the renters, I used to rent from folks on the highs and 3rd and 4th. I knew what it was to do stuff like that back when I was younger. And you don't get much when you're on the highs. You take one acorn and give the landlord the other half. You get much out of that. And but he said the old man got sick. And he said, I wanted to see if he'd stay with that religion he had when he died. He got him a chair and he wouldn't go home. He sat at that old man, the head of that old man's bed, till just before he died. The old man called all his bunch in. And he said, folks, he said, this stuff that we've been teaching, said it might do to live by, but said it won't do to die by. The old boy said, that's all I wanted. He got up out of his chair and went home. He believed it all the time, but he wanted to see that man belch it up. He said, it's good, might be all right to live by, but it ain't good enough to die by. And I'll say, why don't we get that? It's good enough to live by and die by too. We can have God in our life. Boy, I'm telling you, folks, I hope you feel what I'm feeling. But I feel the touch of God in this place today. I mean, you can have God with you wherever you're at. If you're out on the tractor, lawnmower, or just walking down the road, you can have God with you. I mean, Jesus told that Samaritan woman, he said, listen, he said, the times are coming, they won't be worshiping the mountains of Jerusalem, but said, God is the Spirit, and they that worship God must worship Him in spirit and in truth. So you can have God anywhere. Somebody said, we leave the church, we leave the Lord here. No, I'm carrying my Savior with me today. He goes home with me. God, He come in to live. He said, me and my Father will come and we'll take up our abode with you. And if you'll let us, we'll move in and keep house. Somebody said, oh, preacher, I just couldn't help that. I let that slip. They need another housekeeper. When Jesus gets in a person's life, it'll change their walk, their talk, and it just changes everything about them. That's right. Yeah. It's amazing. And sometimes I look at myself and I wonder, is it really me? What God's done for me. Well, I mean, God had brought me a long ways. I used to be a shy person, of course, you wouldn't believe that today. Mac used to be one of the shyest little teenage boys you've ever seen. I mean, he was just shy. But when God called him to preach, and he announced the call to preach, and the Spirit of God moved up on him, and sometimes the Lord don't even have to move up on him, he'd still talk. The Lord just gave him a gift to talking to people. You think about it. And that's what a preacher needs. He needs that touch of God. I thought about Brother Mickey Skates. He was in that field yesterday, and I said, Brother Mickey, get out there to the side of the hearse, and I said, why don't you just go ahead and preach? I said, you had the touch. I said, you had it on you. He said, I sure did. Man, it wouldn't have been took much for him to just preach him a good message right there. And I bet there's people there that need it too. I bet there's people there that there's one heartbeat out of eternity. And it probably was headed in the wrong direction. Listen, do you know the only preaching? I think about this. I remember back in the 70s, I used to work at a funeral home, and one of the boys that worked there, he's going to be with the Lord today. That's him. He told me one day, he said, I want you to listen to Brother Doug Brennan, to one of the dear old preachers that doesn't go to be with God, used to preach here in the county. He said, he'll preach in that funeral just like it was a revival. And I got to thinking, you know, that's probably the only preaching that poor boy ever heard. He worked at a funeral home. He had some big funerals then. They didn't get to go to church. And but anyhow, he had a heart attack in the funeral home. And he finally come to himself. They heard him fall back there. They thought it was just moving something around. And he come up to the front and said, boys, carry me down to the hospital. That's when we had the old hospital up here in town. And he said, carry me down. That's been several years back. He said, carry me down to the hospital. Said, I had a heart attack. He was an intelligent person. He knew he had a heart attack. They carried him down there, and his preacher, his doctor from center come up here and doctored him. And they had one little intensive care room, if y'all remember this, before you go in the rest home out of the old hospital. They had one little room up there. That's where he was at. That's where he got saved. By himself. Now, this fella was a pretty good fella before he got saved, but boy, when the Lord touched him, I was telling somebody the other day, I said, when the Lord does something, does a good job. I'll stop by to visit him. He'd moved back to Alabama for the funeral home down there. I went by to visit him one day, and he said, when you get ready to go, said, pull your car around the back and raise the trunk. Well, Lord, I didn't know what in the world he's talking about. He said, pull it around under the shed, raise the trunk. And I did. I done what he told me to. And I don't know what to beef that boy piled in the back of the trunk of my car. He knowed I had 5 in the family. I mean, he just kept pitching stuff out of that deep freeze. They had a big deep freezer in the back, and he just kept pitching stuff out there. I said, boy, the Lord really touched his heart. But he was pretty tight, you know. He was kind of tight before he got to you, but boy, the Lord loosened him up. God will do things for you if you let him today. I know I'm running a little bit over today. Listen, folks, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to die without Christ. You can have the Lord in your life today. And no doubt, and let me just tell you what a preacher friend had prayed with me, and he doesn't go to be with the Lord today. Prayed with me when I asked my call to preach, he said, if you've got 25 people, and we had that many in Sunday school, so I know we got more for preaching. He said, if you've got 25 people, he said, there's somebody there that can get right with God. And he said, if you've got 25, he said, cut them in half and there's still somebody there can get right with God. And you know, that probably panned out a lot of times. People could get right with God. I'm not talking about, if you're saved, you ain't going to get saved again. You ain't going to be born in this human family but one time. You ain't going to be born in the family of God but one time. I've heard people say it, and some of them was kin to me. I've heard them say they got backslid on the Lord, and they come back and rededicate their life, got up, and they get up and say, the Lord saved me again. Well, that's wonderful. If the Lord just forgave them of what they've done wrong, and they felt like He'd saved them all over again. Then some of them would go and they'd pray, and they'd get up, and they'd wonder why they didn't feel like they did when the Lord first saved them. And they have to prove themselves to God sometimes. Sometimes people have to prove that they mean business with God. Father, come give us a verse of song. I don't know your heart.